Hello, and an official welcome to this Deakin University Alumni End-of-Year virtual event for the Faculty of Science, Engineering and Built Environment. Sam Johnson here from the Deakin Alumni Engagement team. It's great to have you with us. As we gather for this event, physically dispersed and virtually constructed, let us take a moment to reflect on the meaning of place, and in doing so, recognise the various traditional lands on which we do our business this evening. We acknowledge the elders past, present and emerging of all the lands we work and live on, and their ancestral spirits with gratitude and respect. This evening, we're looking forward to reflecting on 2020 with you and with the faculty and university representatives who will speak to you shortly. You'll be hearing a faculty update from Executive Dean Professor Karen Hapgood, as well as school updates from each of the faculty heads of school. Our heads of school will then join a panel discussion, and there will be an opportunity for you to submit questions throughout that discussion via the Q&A box on your screen. In a moment, you will also hear a message from Vice-Chancellor Professor Iain Martin, reflecting on the challenges and success stories of 2020, as well as talking about Deakin's new strategic plan. So next, we're going to hear a message from Vice-Chancellor Professor Iain Martin. I hope you enjoy it.
Good evening. It's always a pleasure to be able to address Deakin's faculty alumni. This evening, I'd like to give you an update on Deakin's major achievements over the year so far and our responses to the incredible challenges we have faced. I also want to spend some time describing our future plans in this very changed world. Over the last few months, we've been drafting Deakin's next 10-year strategy, and I'd like to share with you where we plan to focus our efforts to ensure Deakin's continued success. Deakin's alumni, supporters and friends are absolutely vital to that future success. You help us make a difference in the lives and careers of so many. Firstly, I'd like to reiterate my sincere thanks to all who supported the Student Emergency Assistance Fund, including so many alumni and colleagues. We are inspired and heartened by the many who have made contributions, which have benefited hundreds and hundreds of students during this extraordinarily challenging year. On behalf of the university, personally, and all the students, thank you. The challenges faced by many of our international students have been significant. In the first few weeks of the pandemic, as borders were closing and their casual and part-time jobs were disappearing, we responded quickly to their needs, providing financial support and ensuring they could communicate easily with us so that we could provide additional arrangements for their education and living. We continue to support all our students. They're such an important part of our Deakin community and our local, regional and Victorian communities. We'll be reaching out to alumni and friends in the next few weeks, and we hope you will continue to help our students through this challenging and ultimately formative time in their lives. Without question, this year has been extremely challenging for the sector and for Deakin. We've undergone one of our greatest ever upheavals, and personally, I hope it is the greatest ever upheaval I have to experience. We know that there is still a huge amount of uncertainty and challenges to overcome, but as we leave 2020 and enter 2021, I have an overwhelming sense of optimism about the importance of universities in the recovery of Victoria and Australia. Both the federal and Victorian governments have made further commitments of support to the sector and have publicly recognised the importance of universities in the social and economic recovery of Australia in the months and years ahead. We're working closely with the state and federal governments on this roadmap, and Deakin's contributions to the recovery will be expressed in our new strategy, which I'll talk to later. Our outstanding digital capability has served us so well this year, and the transition to almost a completely online university has been a very successful one. This is absolutely a direct result of the talent and hard work of our academics and professional staff working in partnership with our students. We've seen resilience across all of these communities. Despite all of the challenges, our student enrolment numbers remain strong, higher than at this time last year, and indeed up 4% overall. This has been driven by domestic enrolments, which are up around 8%, buoyed by high demand given the challenging employment market, but also a strong contribution from the government subsidised short courses, mainly focused on postgraduate coursework. However, international student numbers and the stories of our international students are a different story, of course. For this year, we're down 7% overall, but importantly, new commencers are down by 28%, and we expect this to fall further. Despite this, we're working hard with our international networks, particularly in India and Indonesia, on study models that begin courses offshore, then transition to on-campus as the travel restrictions hopefully ease through the later parts of 2021. We're now the largest educator of Australian domestic students in the country, having overtaken Monash in this respect. But, and very importantly, this has not come at the expense of student experience. We retained our #1 rating in Victoria for overall student experience for the 4th year in a row, making 10 years in a row if you include the previous measurement system. Indeed, we are the leading Australian public university in this regard. Deakin cannot function on its own, and this year has seen some new partnerships and endeavours. We're working on the hydrogen economy, and we've established our HyCell Advisory Board to maximise hydrogen research and development, help to leverage investment and grow collaboration as the demand-driven hydrogen economy continues to play an important part in Australia's future. Internationally, we've established a partnership between Deakin Co and Tata Management Training Centre in India, delivering blended education programs for organisations that will have unique needs post-COVID. We're now casting our ambitions for the next decade in the form of our new strategic plan. The plan will deliver a sharper focus on how we add value to our students and our local, national and international communities. It will be embedded in 2 core activities of education and employability and research and innovation. Our education will focus on course offerings that support students at all stages of their careers. It will integrate career thinking and employability skills into almost all of our programs. We'll focus on high quality short programs that can be built into formal qualifications and make sure that we deliver distinctive blended student experiences using the best of digital and physical campuses across all of our sites. Alongside our education, our research and innovation will see further strengthening of our already strong mutually beneficial partnerships with industry, government and the community. We'll continue to grow our innovation ecosystem with local and international partners, and in doing so, strengthen international engagement and facilitate longer-term local and international collaboration. The academic impact we create from our research is important, but so is the direct benefits that come from it. We'll see greater generation of new products and services, greater influence and improving of social policies, and working on community frameworks. Our strategy has included in it 5 key impact themes. We're going to build our strengths around these themes. These have been chosen because they're both important to society and relate to our strengths in education and research. They're going to help us focus our resources and activities to ensure that we're delivering the greatest positive impact we can. These themes are, firstly, advancing society, culture and the economy. Secondly, building safe and secure communities. Thirdly, creating smarter technologies. Fourthly, enabling a sustainable world. And finally, and by no means least, improving health and well-being. Alongside these themes, we want to see ourselves being a leader in the use of digital technology. Our investment in digital increased greatly with our Live the Future strategic plan in 2011, and this commitment will only be strengthened in our new strategy. We will aim to seamlessly blend online and on-campus activities across all that we do. We'll make sure that our cybersecurity is robust and we protect the privacy of our people and partners. And above all, we'll focus on the ethical use and innovation that genuinely adds value to individuals, students, and the wider community. This has been a challenging year for the faculty, but alongside these challenges, there have been some wonderful achievements. The Victorian Coastal Monitory Programme involved 150 volunteers in local communities trained to pilot lightweight drones along 2,500 kilometres of coastline. A great citizen scientist program led by Associate Professor Daniel Iridakanu. Daniel has recently been named as a finalist in the prestigious Australian Museum Eureka Prizes, alongside colleague Associate Professor Ewan Ritchie for work on the CAT Ecology Impact and Management team. Thank you so much to the Executive Dean, Professor Karen Hapgood, who's provided wonderful leadership throughout this challenging year, and we give you a detailed overview of the year in the faculty.
Thank you very much, Vice-Chancellor Professor Iain Martin, for that message. In a moment, I'll hand over to Executive Dean Professor Karen Hapgood for a faculty update, and then to introduce our other guest speakers and moderate the Q&A after those presentations. A reminder to please use that Q&A box to submit questions during the discussion, and we'll try and get to as many as we can at the end. And now for the faculty update, over to you, Professor Hapgood.
Hi, everybody. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet and gather today, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, emerging, and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders here today. Welcome to the CB Alumni Update for 2020. And I think everybody's aware, 2020, what a year. It's been very challenging for everybody in all kinds of unexpected way at home and at work. And that's been the same for all the universities and all parts of Deakin as we've adapted to working from home, studying from home, and just the social distancing and our new lifestyles, which are almost normal. Luckily, Deakin was very well prepared here. We've been a very digital online distance education university for a long time. We have a lot of experience in this space, so we're well prepared. We even got some unsolicited feedback very early on Instagram from a student who posted a picture of normal Deakin Cloud Campus and said, turns out Deakin was pandemic ready all along. So there are some really great things about how we've adapted, but that doesn't mean it was easy. And the innovation of the staff to try and adapt things that you would normally do on campus to make the best of a bad situation. We've had innovative staff invent new chemistry labs using the kitchen and things that everybody will have, even in a share house, in order to demonstrate some basic principles and keep the course moving and find other innovative ways to show and give people a chance to learn the skills they need to advance their courses. So it's been, each of those heads of schools is going to talk shortly after this, and they'll give you a bit more detail of what's been happening in their schools and how our students in particular have adapted and how our staff have tried our best to support and bring successful studies to all of our students. This has been the outcome. So we've got current students with challenges, but I'd also like to acknowledge as an alumni event, and CB was very well represented in the annual alumni events this year. I'd like to, and I hear he's on the line. Hello, Saifuddin bin Ahmad, who was the alumni of the year. Saifuddin is an architect, and he was director of the SNO Architects in Malaysia. He was also the president of the Malaysia Institute of Architects. And this is a photo of him now. This is him back in the day in 1983. And there's a great video online. And this is my favorite moment from the video. I'm not a minimalist. I love it when people have their own sentimental souvenirs of their technical and professional career. And Saifuddin kept his Deakin University jumper, blazer, sweatshirt that he proudly still has, and that was actually my favorite moment of, whilst respecting all of his great achievements, I did actually love that personal connection and how the connection with Deakin over time. So we're very proud of Saifuddin bin Ahmad's achievements, and he's on the line tonight, and thank you, congratulations to Saifuddin. We also had a team award for the Deakin Awards, and this is a group of chemists from the School of Life and Environmental Sciences. So it's Dr. Ben Hinson and the 10X Genomics team. So 10X Genomics was a startup in California. It uses chemistry and genomics, biochemistry to looking at biology of diseases. They are listed on the NASDAQ. They have a drone shot of their office building in Silicon Valley. But what makes this particular team special is it started by a group of these chemists that came from Deakin and Ben Hinson, and he has hired the whole number of Deakinites, was how they call it, to come and work in and provide opportunities in Silicon Valley for other Deakin alumni. So it actually, the award went to the Deakin Genomics alumni team, which is Ben Hinson, but also there's a group photo there with Joshua Delaney, Chris Hinson, Adam Lowe, Jeff McDermott, and Jessica Terry. And it's just great to see such a great group of people, all from Warden Ponds, Geelong, making it big in California and as a team. And we look forward to them coming back and picking up more Deaconites to provide new opportunities for in future. I'd also like to really acknowledge the philanthropy. So we have a number of generous supporters and corporate partners. The partnerships really underpin the university, and it's really critical in strengthening Deakin's commitment to be a catalyst for positive change to benefit all of our students, alumni, and the communities that we serve. One I'm going to highlight here is AusNet Services. So we have a long, Deakin and AusNet Services have a long partnership. We've just built a massive solar array on the Warden Ponds campus. But they're also very passionate about supporting engineering and STEM careers, including diversity. I am a woman in engineering myself, so this is an area very close to my personal heart. And so they've had a Women in Power Engineering Scholarship for a long time, and now they've actually gone further upstream to better address the encouragement of women, getting girls interested in STEM careers, partnering with Sacred College in Geelong, which is an all-female school, to offer a scholarship for year 11 and 12 to Sacred Heart students who are interested during their VCE. And then if they come to Deakin, a scholarship comes along with if they study electrical and electronics engineering. That's $10,000 per year for 4 years. And importantly, it includes also vocational work experience over the holidays, and a mentoring program. Female engineers are still only 13% of the Australian workforce, despite all these programs, and it's really the choices are made in high school. And I'd really like to offer my heartfelt thanks to AusNet and the partnership with Sacred Heart and Deakin, so that they are trying to address more systemically the issues. And we have many other corporate sponsors, too many to name, but this is a unique partnership I want to sort of highlight. I'd also like to thank everybody who has made a contribution or donation to Deakin this year, including to the Student Hardship Fund. There's certainly no shortage of student hardship out there this year. But as we look to Deakin's next decade, we really need to realise our aspiration to be Australia's most progressive university. And we know that we can increase the differences that we make in people's lives. And when we do this in partnership with people who care about our future and those communities. If you'd like to get in touch to discuss how you can make a positive impact, please get in touch after the webinar. So now for the next 30 minutes or so, we'll be hearing from our faculty heads of school about the highlights of 2020, how each school has adapted throughout the year to support all of our Deakin students, and what they see changing in the future. After we have these 4 presentations from each of the schools of engineering, life and environmental science, IT, and architecture and built environment, we will then be opening up to audience questions, and we'd love to hear from you. As we go along, at any time, please pop the questions you have through for the panel through the Q&A box on the screen, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end after we've had a brief presentation from the heads of schools. So I'm now going to introduce our speakers, and the first speaker is our newest head of school to join Deakin. She has joined in July completely remotely. I have seen her in 3 dimensions once, and the rest of our lives is entirely via this Zoom format. But Professor Marnie Campbell, she's the head of School of Life and Environmental Sciences. So over to you, Marnie.
Thanks, Karen, and thank you to everyone who's turned up tonight for the alumni event. It's although I'm not seeing you, it is lovely to be here. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. So I'll go to the next slide actually as well. Sorry. I think, as with most organisations, it's not just one person that actually makes things happen, but it's a team. And one of the things that's gone on in 2020 in the School of Life and Environmental Science is that we actually had a change of head. Chris Austin was in that position in 2019, and then at the start of 2020, John Donald filled in while I organised myself to move over here. And John being the interim, he actually had to deal with a lot of the early COVID stuff, and he's actually been a fantastic person to get things moving and happening, and has made my transition into the school very, very easy. Next slide, please, Sam. So the highlights, I've actually focused on research highlights here, but I will talk about some of the other things later on as well. There's quite a few, and some of these have already been mentioned by our VC and by Karen already. But there are a couple of things that are actually really very exciting that I wanted to draw everyone's attention to. So some of these things are very massive. They're across all of Australia, such as we were lucky in getting an ARC Industrial Transformation Research Hub, and that is around energy storage and conversion technologies. We've also had a lot of good luck with our ARC DECRAs. So these are our young and emerging researchers and postdocs, and we had 2 of those just recently announced. And we've also been doing a fair amount of work with state organisations as well. Some of that is in the Victorian Coastal Monitoring and the cat ecology work that both Iain and Karen alluded to. One of the other cool things that the school's been doing is that we actually do a lot of work with our overseas partners. And in 2020, we received funding through the New Zealand MB Endeavour Fund, which is very much like the ARC fund. And this is working in the space around cyber-physical seafood systems, which sounds pretty damn exciting. But the idea is how to optimise our green manufacturing for marine co-products, and that has a whole heap of different ramifications for what we can do in the future around food, but also it has medicinal and nutraceutical and pharmaceutical opportunities as well. Next slide, please. So of course 2020 is one of those years that it's going to go down in everyone's memories because of coronavirus. Next slide. And one of the great things about this is obviously we've heard a lot, especially when we get into these meetings, etc., and talk to our friends and colleagues, that when COVID hit, we had to pivot what we were doing. And of course, I like to think that not only did John manage to get the LES team to pivot, but we actually also did a bit of a slam dunk because we had such a successful year. Next slide, please. So the ways that we worked to actually make 2020 a successful year was that we looked across 4 different domains and we worked in these spaces. And the first one obviously was safety. So it was really important that we were able to make sure that our staff and students remained safe, and that we were able to also keep our community safe. And this involved a lot of preempting what was going to happen, then reacting, revising and revising again as the government and the state government regulations and directives changed, and then as that flowed through the university. Some of the big aspects of that was social distancing, which will be with us into 2021, and we've had to change how our school works in that context. And that brings me to the teaching space. LES was slow to take up an online presence, but in this COVID environment, we obviously had to move into that space, and we've managed to do that very well. We've had our lectures online and our tutorials, our seminars, and we were able to replace some of our laboratories with virtual lab work, and also things such as doing lab work in our kitchens, etc. One of the other things that we did in this space, though, is we developed safe mechanisms to actually come back onto campus when we're allowed to come back onto campus. And this meant that we had socially distanced labs. So if we had a cohort of 100 students, we couldn't get all of those into one lab, so we would have to increase the number of labs we had, and we had fewer students and fewer academics and staff in those labs, and we spaced them out over time. And that means that we had to have a lot more going on in that space. So everyone had to be super busy and very, very organised. Now, as the shutdown changed, we also had to change how we were doing that, because Melbourne became a different timeline than Warrnambool and then Geelong. And then, in fact, we decided that maybe the best way to get the students in Warrnambool through was to run intensive units and to get the lab units completed, so we could actually make sure those cohorts of students could get through. The other thing we did is that we prioritised our cohorts. So our third year students became a priority in this context because they were finishing, and we wanted to make sure that they had all the best training and that they've met all of their learning outcomes. But that also means that we're revisioning what we're going to be doing in the future in 2021. And that prioritisation will probably change again because we've now had a first year cohort that have come in and didn't have a normal experience. And so we need to be able to make sure that they've had good opportunities to get into the lab, that they've had scaffolding of any of the lab skills that they've missed out on. Within the research space, we also had to adapt with new rules and how we ran our lab work again and our field work. And we really relied a lot on teamwork, with our teams working together, making sure that they stayed in contact with each other. And we also had, surprisingly, a lot more time to write because we were working from home, so we didn't have travel distances between getting towards campus and home. So we've had an increase in our number of publications in this space, and we had 21 of our PhD students complete, which I think is really fantastic given that COVID was such a stressful year for everyone. And then the final aspect is that we were actually very citizen focused. And in that context, I mean, we did things that weren't just about the university and not just about our staff and our students, but we also helped out in our communities. So we made hand sanitizer that was available for different hospitals, and we also made that available for students and staff if they were running out of hand sanitizer. We developed check-ins and drop-ins for making sure we maintained contact with people, making sure people were feeling okay. And in some instances, when needed, we organised students and staff to be evacuated from high-risk overseas locations. Thanks, Sam. Next one. So, of course, to make this all work, we had to have a really good team effort. And our team effort, which we'll be focusing on into the future as well, wasn't just around our executive in the school, but it also meant that our academics and staff were working really efficiently. We've created working groups to actually learn from the lessons from this year and then to adapt what we're doing into the future as well. And the other big group, or two big groups in this space, was our advisory boards have been really, really helpful. And they've talked about how we can actually reposition ourselves and think about what sort of skills we can offer to people who may have ended up being unemployed through COVID, and the sorts of different upskilling that can happen in the future to help the communities out there. Next slide, please. So obviously that means we're going to be stretching beyond our school. And so often schools are quite focused in the area that they're in, but we're going to be creating some opportunities where we work with our other schools within our faculty, but also across the university in a pan-university manner. We're going to be bringing in different partners and expanding that as well. And obviously working with society and Indigenous, and of course our alumni. Next slide, please. So our future gazing means that we're going to be connecting more with our industry, government, NGOs, and creating work-ready graduates with the idea of resilience. So 2021 and into the future will look different for our school. Thank you. Next one. So I guess the final message is LES didn't just get through 2020 in the pandemic, but we actually progressed, and that progression means that we've modernised what we're doing, and hopefully that's going to be something that's good for our communities as well as our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie. Next, we're going to hand over to Professor Anthony Mills. He's the head of school of the School of Architecture and Built Environment. Tony.
Thank you, Karen. Look, it's a great pleasure to be here tonight. And can I just have a bit of a shout out to Zafuddin? I know that we met last time I was in Malaysia, and it was a great pleasure to meet you. For those that don't know, Zafuddin is a very important person in Malaysia, and he opened a number of doors and facilitated a couple of really good deals for us. We're, as a school, accredited by the Malaysian Institute of Architects, and Zafuddin was a very strong supporter of us all the way along the way. So it's amazing, isn't it, how personal connections make a difference in a modern world. Next slide, thanks. I thought I might just talk about how the School of Architecture and Built Environment thinks about research. And one of the approaches that we use is that we use this what's called an integral theory approach. We've renamed it the Integral Design Framework, and it's a 4 hats type process. It looks at the way we should be looking at any particular thorny issue that's out there, and there are many of them at the moment, in terms of different perspectives. And in this particular case, it's honing in on the idea of what is sustainable going forward. Sustainability is an overused term, and so we've tried to understand that using this 4 hats type process. So if you go around, we'll start at the top right hand corner. I won't go through all of them, but the top right hand corner there, which says performance, that's what you can measure. And in most cases within any environment, really, what you can measure ends up becoming the decision maker. So in other words, how much electricity you can generate or how much water you can reduce. But that isn't the story. It's the other 3 perspectives. You go down to the economic aspects in the second quadrant, which is just below, across to the practice and policy environments that we're constrained by rules and regulations, and also our own personal practices. And then finally up there on the top left-hand side, and that's called user experience. What do you feel when you're in that space? How does a person who engages with the built environment react and respond to it? And so those 4 perspectives have been the lens that we've used for any problem that confronts the built environment. And I want to talk now about a couple of examples, and you can see those logos on the bottom of the screen on the right there, and I'll give some examples. If you could move to the next slide. Thanks, Sam. So we've adopted that fundamental process, which is designed to look at a collaborative way or a different perspective way of looking at any problem that relates to sustainability and the built environment, or indeed any problem at all. If you look there at the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a little bit of a lake. That's a Rio Tinto mine in Anglesea, and it reached the end of its life probably 20 years ago, I suppose. And that space sits there down at Anglesea, which is a beautiful part of the world. And the question is, what do you do about it? Rio Tinto have agreed to try and restore it, whatever that means. And we've tried to imagine what can you do with that space, which is fairly unique, if we actually both restore it back to its original condition, but also use it to go beyond what we're calling net zero and use it as a regenerative environment. And if you move to that center photo there, it looks at a couple of reimagining what we could do with that space. It's a very large space in a fairly pristine area other than the mine site. And this exhibition looks at community responses to really what we should do about this. And bearing in mind that Rio Tinto have got the money and resources to do something about it, it's a very good idea in these circumstances to think about the concept of perhaps going beyond net zero and looking at regenerative environments, which may be able to improve the community more generally in that area and beyond for people that revisit it. So the Livable and Smart Lab looks at how you create these scenarios, how you look at the interactions with community, with resources like water and electricity, and how you bring that together as a package, and then how you move things forward. The Live Smart Lab was started about a year ago, and it is very busy with clients knocking on our doors, trying to create scenarios in environments where no one's really thought about it before. Thanks, Sam. Next slide. We've also started a thing called the Mind Lab, Mediated Intelligence in Design. This has a number of different aspects. This particular project looks at a new material. The organisation that we're working with, which is an external company called Imagine Intelligent Materials, has come up with this graphene-enabled smart surface. You can put it into carpets or mats, and you can even spray it onto walls. And what it does, it senses the environment around it. We think this is going to be useful in buildings and in built environment. It'll pick up on heat, it'll pick up on pressure, it'll pick up on a whole variety of other things. And we think it has applications in things like childcare, in aged care, and a variety of other environments. And so what we're trying to do with this stuff is expand its capacity to enable us to understand the built environment. Next slide. This group is another research lab within the school. It's called Home, obviously, and it's looking at what home means. It means more than place, it's more than comfort, it's more than nurturing. It has a whole variety of different aspects to it. And on the left there, you'll see it's the cover of a report that was delivered a few months ago called Accessible and Inclusive Geelong. Geelong is a fantastic city. It's 250,000 people. It's a perfect space or laboratory for examining things on a large urban scale which can then be translated into even larger urban scales. And what this report does is it tries to determine how the citizens of Geelong accesses its public facilities, its libraries, its swimming pools, its schools, its universities, and it's done that from the perspective of a large urban environment. We examined a whole series of different access points, a whole series of different disabilities in many cases, but also challenges. We've also spoken to all of the community groups that engage in our city of Geelong and asked them what is it that prevents them from getting the maximum out of their urban environment, and how can we adapt our urban planning and our urban design to make sure that everything is available to all of us. Next slide, thank you. The Mind Lab does all sorts of things, and I could wax lyrical about what they do for a long time. And this particular project looks at an augmented reality of trying to bring history back into the Western Beach, which is along the Geelong waterfront, which is something which people love in Geelong. And there's a series of stories that people probably don't remember. But the reason I'm putting it up now is to talk a little bit about our teaching. It's the same concept. History has been around forever, but the way we interact with it, of course, has a whole new meaning to a new generation. This year, of course, the School of Architecture and Built Environment was forced to go online because of COVID. And so we couldn't interact with students in a studio environment. So what we had to do was come up with a mechanism where we could all see what each other were doing, and Safadin would know about this idea of being in a design studio and having a critique. People need to see what you're designing and then comment on it in a non-confrontational way. We adopted a technology called Padlet, which has been around for a while, but it's been repurposed, and it allows students to see each other's work and then comment on it. And in many respects, that interaction has created communication that we didn't think was going to happen. For instance, many students that are somewhat timid in a face-to-face environment were much more animated in this online environment. And so we ended up with quite a different set of critiques that happened within our design studios, and we didn't expect that. Next slide, thank you. So for anybody that's out there that's thinking about doing courses in the School of Architecture and Built Environment, we have 2 master's programs which take on board the learnings that we've had from all of those labs and the experiences that we have working in the built environment. Please come along and sign up for a Master of Construction Management, or if you look down there on the right, a graduate certificate or a graduate diploma, which might give you a taste of what we're doing. Next slide. And for those that are eligible, you might be interested in a Master of Architecture. And a Master of Architecture can be done by coursework, or it can be done by research as well. And we'd also welcome people who are interested in PhDs. Next slide, please. I wanted to highlight one of the most popular units that's done within both of those courses, and that's called Sustainable Futures. And this is this idea, and it comes back to that integral design approach. What is it in a modern world that we really need to do within our disciplines? And this is what Sustainable Futures actually explores. I think it's one of the cores to everything associated with our school. All of our students doing postgraduate courses go through this unit, and that's why it's so significant. It allows students to adapt what they know and what they understand towards a new and sustainable future. Next slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. So next up, we have Professor Aman. He's the head of School of Engineering. So over to you, Aman.
Thank you, Karen. Good evening, everyone. Great to be with you all in 2020 style, which is virtually. This year has been a very unique year for all of us. However, our journey has been relatively smooth. Unlike many engineering schools in the country, we delivered all our courses online without any interruption, as we are the first engineering school in the country delivering our program online for more than 25 years. To enhance student learning, we have developed laboratory demonstration videos, delivered real-time active learning activities in the evening to suit all our students who are in many parts of the country, indeed in many parts of the world. Next slide, please. We are world leaders. We are leader in engineering education, and we continue to innovate our courses and the way how we deliver them. We have adopted project and design-based learning, teaching pedagogy, empower our students to be independent and lifelong learner. We are further advancing with our teaching innovation and guiding and supporting our students to be independent learner in many effective ways, as you can see. Next slide, please. As we all know, learning never stops, and we are providing our current and prospective students to advance their learning and acquire further qualification with various pathways from undergraduate all the way to PhD. Next slide, please. I was asked to rush a bit because of the time. So currently we are exploring various short courses in many nationally and internationally significant areas in the form of, whether it's a short courses or undergraduate or master's courses. For example, in trimester 1, 2021, we'll be offering masters in energy system management, as well as masters in infrastructure engineering and management. Next slide, please. Despite many challenges this year due to COVID, we have done very well when it comes to industry engagement. As Karen mentioned, in partnership with OzNet Services, we have built a 7.5 megawatt microgrid at our Warrumpong campus. This will be the first such a large infrastructure, a renewable infrastructure in any university campus in the world. This will provide us much needed infrastructure to conduct research in the renewable energy area, as well as train our students and offer training program for the industry and for our community. Next slide, please. We have also partnered with Fiona to build a solar car for us to participate in the World Solar Car Challenge. This is a multidisciplinary program and give our students from engineering, IT, business and law, and communication and creative arts to work together. Next slide, please. So our research performance across the board has been very good despite the challenging year. Based on the Excellent in Research for Australia outcome, we have been ranked well above the world standard in electrical and electronic engineering, in manufacturing and material engineering, as well as above world standard in mechanical engineering. We have performed well this year. Just to give you a few examples, Melbourne Water and our VR Lab team was again named as one of the most innovative companies for their technology they have developed to train future workforce. We are also one of the leading universities in 3D printing area. And again, one of our colleagues was invited by the conversation to write an important article on 3D printing and COVID-19. This year, we have also launched the Engineering Future Leaders Program in response to growing demand for graduate researchers. Next slide, please. We are currently exploring what we can offer to address CPD needs in professional registration in Victoria, including providing a community space to meet and of course to network, share knowledge and grow. Finally, and most importantly, we would like to continue working with all of you in our attempt in supporting our students, providing various learning opportunities through a student project, mentoring, and so on. With that, I thank you for joining with us this evening. Look forward to continue engaging with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aman. And for those of you who get a chance to possibly come and see the microgrid, it is bigger than you can imagine when you see it for real. It is massive. Next up, we have Professor John Yearwood from the School of Information Technology. So over to you, John.
Thanks, Karen, and good evening, everyone. Next slide. So School of IT has for almost as long as Deakin's been the digital university had its courses online, all of its courses online. But of course, in this year with COVID, we actually had to shift to offering our courses online to all of our students. And in fact, that turned out to be quite challenging. So it really has been an achievement for us, although people think the School of IT should be able to do this quite easily. really has been an achievement for both our staff and our students. And the outcomes have been really great, really positive student engagement maintained across the whole year, and good outcomes in terms of student success. There were issues in helping students with the online platforms at first. One of the reasons is because we were using many online platforms, and we are a school that has some issues with students learning mathematics and programming. So we have support facilities for those students. It's called a Learning Support Hub, and indeed the whole Learning Support Hub also shifted to an online operation. As well as that, we have been able to embed professional cybersecurity certifications into our cybersecurity bachelor's degree. We've had these for some time, but in the cases of 2 of those certifications, they were embedded into units, and we had large numbers of students taking those certifications and succeeding with them. Moving on to the next slide. As well as that, this year we were planning an innovative approach to teaching mathematics using a very active learning approach. And of course, we had to pivot to online. And we were able to do that to a large extent and still be successful by using OnTrack, which is a system that is used within our school to focus on outcomes in terms of accessible tasks. So it sort of flips the unit around to get students to focus on what they have to do, and they can work towards the grades that they think they should be able to achieve. And also using what we call a cloud-first approach, which was really focusing on treating students as known online students. The school has run an industry capstone program for some years. And this program is shown, the space that this program normally operates in is shown in the image on the slide. And this is the COVID image, of course, there were no students there. So this program had to operate this year online. It's a very large program, and it uses the Spotify approach using tribes and squads to do group projects that are industry-based, which provide students with really great professional experience. And the assessment tries to drive the professional expectations that one would find in industry. Moving on and thinking about 2021, we're also going to work on enabling students to transition to research degrees, not just by honours courses, but from our other coursework, postgraduate degrees, such as master's degrees. So what else did we do in 2020? This year, we previously developed 2 new courses, one a Bachelor of Artificial Intelligence, and the other a postgraduate equivalent, a Master of Applied Artificial Intelligence. The Bachelor of Artificial Intelligence started with 37 enrollments this year, which is fairly good for a first-time course. We're also really a first mover in this AI area, certainly at the bachelor's level. And the Master of Applied AI had 61 course enrollments, which was also very helpful. We also, this year, put forward 3 very successful short courses under the Iain model. So these were grad certificate courses in data science, cybersecurity, and artificial intelligence. And we were surprised at the number of enrollments. So at one point, I think we had over 900 students in these grad cert courses. Moving on to the next slide, thanks. School of IT has for some time wanted to involve students in lots of activities that are sort of surround or extramural activities that upskill students in many ways. And so, as well as the academic experience, we try to give our students skills that help them broaden their skill set to industry standards with the intention of helping them in their employment. We are trying to have a focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. We tried to involve students in networking activities, and also, of course, we tried to provide them with recognition through industry-based awards and recognition. Next slide, please. So some instances of these things, our students have over the years been involved in hackathons and competitions, and this year we had to shift the hackathons to online events, and in fact we made it an international event with students from Alumni University, Southwest University, and Inner Mongolia Normal University. And that was a very, very successful event. Next slide, please. We also involved students in a virtual mentoring program with one of the companies that sits on our advisory board, Verizon, and students are matched with professional mentors for mentoring sessions, and that also has worked really well. We also involve students with the Deakin SciRise Accelerator, and for the first time our students were involved in boot camps with SciRise, and the SciRise people themselves were amazed at the outcomes that they had for our students. Next slide, please. And I guess one of the things that we've aspired to do for some time is to have an iAwards win. iAwards is a significant industry competition that occurs every year, and a group of our students won this year with the Globe Grocery Tracker application, at least one in Victoria as a Victoria finalist, and the national award will be announced on the 17th of November. Next slide, please. So just to give you a sense of our research, I just chose 4 what I call major research outcomes. So we have a project with Bosch, which is to do with cyber-safe connected vehicles, ensuring secure, trusted and robust cooperative automotive systems. That's one that's in progress. We also have another one which is with the TAC, which is detection of outlier behavior amongst health and medical providers servicing TAC clients. And that has been adopted by TAC. We also had another major project with the Royal Australian Navy, automated resource and event scheduling pilot training program. To train, by the way, to train a pilot, we're talking about $8 million plus. So just small numbers can really change the costs. And that computerized planning system will be deployed in the next few weeks in the Navy. And then the intelligent power management for East Shepherd collar. This is a way of electronically fencing animals. That methodology has also been adopted by industry. Next slide, please. So here are our major collaborators, just to give you a sense. Next slide, please. We've done very well in terms of our category 1 research income, that is ARC grants and so on. But outside of that, this shows a picture of the sectors that we have received funding from, and that funding was over $2.3 million this year to date. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Great, thank you, John. And as you can see, it may have been a difficult year, but there's plenty of stuff happening at all of our schools on both teaching and research front. So thank you to those of you who have put some questions on the Q&A forum. So our first question is from Paolo Rivera, and he's asking, they are asking, are there any new initiatives that Deakin has to provide tailored careers advice to individuals during their course? He says that I feel like I should have made different decisions, for instance, in my choice of work placement and honours project at Deakin, and is looking for work and really now appreciates the importance of work experience during the course. So it's honest, I'm just wondering if we can briefly, Marnie mentions honours, but how we're integrating integrated learning into our courses. So.
Yeah, look, thank you, Karen and Paola. That's a really good question. I think what we've done in the past is we've tried to make sure that students are understanding of the different sorts of pathways they can have in their first year, and then we've reinforced that again in the third year. But the truth is that quite often they're focused on what they need, and they don't necessarily think about how those skills can translate. So we've gone back to how we're going to focus on those different pathways and how we can build in work integrated learning options there. And I think there's going to be a lot more use of our advisory boards to make sure that we can talk about the skills and the soft skills as well, so we can actually make sure that that students can achieve more. We're also kind of looking at if students don't, when they finish, if there's an option where they haven't got an employment, how can we actually find a different pathway for them? So for example, in LES, they may not stay in LES, they might go and do something with engineering or in IT that builds on the skills that they have, and that might move them into a better position. And by third year, often students who are straight out of high school will have a bit more of an idea. And so we think that actually by looking across the schools and the faculty, we might have better options and better ways of getting people into the workforce.
Thanks, Marnie. And just to add that we have the Deakin Talent program, which really supports all of our students to go and find work. And it's basically a free employment agency for employers to hire Deakin students. And it's also open to alumni. So the support doesn't end the day you graduate. And I think that's going to be really important for all of our Deakin students and alumni going forward. So we have another question from Russell Spate, and Russell is an MBA graduate from Deakin and has 3 kids who went to Deakin, so yay, Russell. They love the cloud platform. He's originally an engineer. He's interested in about how, it's a question for Aman, about how we balance the hands-on skills, both normally and in COVID in particular, because the practicals and hands-on skills are quite important for engineering. And really, you can't learn engineering by YouTube. So that's my editorial, that's not Russell's words. But so, Aman, do you want to elaborate how we've generally provide those skills and what we've been able to do during COVID with mailing stuff out?
No, thank you. That's a great question. The focus of Deakin School of Engineering is to develop industry-ready graduates which are equipped to tackle the skills and job of the future. I think the earlier question around the work placement, the WID also is part of our all our courses. Currently, every student has the opportunity to take to undergo through the work placement. But nonetheless, again, as I said, we are committed to produce industry-ready graduate, and therefore we have come up with a number of programs in our existing courses, such as there are 6 different graduate certificates, for example, that you can choose in the area of additive manufacturing, civil engineering, electrical and renewable energy, and so on. So there are many ways. If you are not an engineer, for example, you will have the options to undertake those short graduate certificates and be ready for the industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Aman. We have another question, which is about how COVID has changed the way we use our spaces and buildings. This one's really for Tony. So how is the profession adapting to the new world where we need a lot more space per person in order to work safely, and how is the school responding to those challenges?
Well, indeed, Karen. Look, I could talk about this for hours, and many people do, but I came across a term today, actually, when I was doing a bit of research. I'm giving a keynote for the Architectural Science Association in a couple of weeks' time, and the 2 words that I'd not understood before, but is now part of our legislation, is called density quotient. And we're talking about how you congregate people within groups, so that you limit the spread of COVID. And this is going to be one of the really big things that changes the way buildings are designed and used. Any building design is based on what users believe that the building should do. So in terms of the environment, it should be comfortable, it should be healthy, and it should be safe. But density quotient is something that's coming into the equation, which we've not seen before. And it depends on the setting, depending on where people are. So that's one of the things that's going to impact on us. And there are many more discussions to have about that particular issue.
Thanks, Tony. And we have another question, which is really about IT. I think luckily for the world, we had IT skills support to get through working from home, remote working. We've all discovered the critical importance of that and cybersecurity. So I'm interested to, this question for John, which is really about how do you see COVID changing the technology-related job prospects, or what do you think are the trends that new graduates going to need to respond to the new situation we find ourselves all in?
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I think the main way is that it's accelerated the rate of change in technology. And I guess IT is one of these areas where the things change really rapidly anyway. And we've just seen that accelerate the whole shift to online. You've seen the companies that have done well on the stock market. But I think you see that across the board in biotechnology as well. But the main movements, I think, are in the areas of cybersecurity and AI. And what I think you will see there is a lot more automation in those areas. So the sort of automation, robotics, and machine learning are the areas that will advance rather quickly, I would say.
Thank you, John. And certainly we've seen the most incredible demand for the Graduate Certificate of Data Analytics, where despite the fact that most places had less students this year, wonderful opportunity for some staff in IT who had 900 students appear out of the blue for in a very recently created graduate certificate in data analytics. And actually it was about 1/3 women, which also changed the dynamics of the diversity of that particular course. Is unusual. And that links into one other question also from Paola, which I'm actually going to ask. I'm probably actually best placed to answer this myself, but Paola's interested in other initiatives to support female students that have added family commitments. For instance, they've met students that have young children or kids with disabilities that have added stresses while studying. So this is actually one of the things that I think is most unique about Deakin, that we do have a number of the online cloud that's always studying, which is always available, COVID or no COVID, is much more flexible because it stops you having to traipse into campus all the time for small things. You can study at your own convenience, at your own pace with some limits and then come back. We do have, there are some special scholarships for women in technology. There's AusNet ones, there's Barwon Water ones. But the thing, I'm a woman in a male-dominant STEM field myself, and architecture has similar demographics actually. The thing I notice here at Deakin is that this is the university where people come later in life when they maybe didn't do science or engineering or IT straight out of high school, but they realize later on that they'd like to do this and come back. So our cohort of particularly women in STEM is actually much more diverse. They're not all 19 straight out of high school. There are women there who've had kids and waited for them to go to school themselves before coming back to study, who are studying from Townsville. So it's actually, we have family-friendly changing parenting rooms, and I've seen our tech staff, I have seen parent students come with, in one case, a newborn premature baby. This was an engineering, I remember mine in particular, and they went out of their way to find, right, we need to set up rooms and spaces to be able to support this young mum who's desperately, who 10 points is going to plow ahead and continue with her studies and do the practical intensive components, having recent young baby, and the support that people give because they are intensive students and they are, it's a special relationship you have with this diversity, and Deakin is excellent at that, that aspect of it. So there are not as many scholarships that I would like to see personally, more special scholarships for women to return to studies later in life who missed out earlier and would like to come now. We spend a lot of time trying to get women in high school to do STEM, but there's a whole group of people out there that missed their first chance that would, with a little bit of support, would love the opportunity to come back and scholarship support. So hopefully there'll be something that will come up in future. I think we've come to the end of the questions, the key questions. Just going to go back to the last I think we're good, and there were more questions. We can't quite get to them all, but I'd like to say thank you very much to everyone who's contributed a question, and we're delighted. And if you've got other questions, you're welcome to get in touch afterwards. And I think I'll hand back to Sam to close out the session.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Karen, and thank you to our panelists. It was wonderful to hear your thoughts and the updates, and really appreciated that. And thanks to you, the audience, for joining us. Just a quick update to say, please do stay connected with us. You can update your contact details by visiting the Deakin website on the address you'll see on the screen, or emailing deakinalumni@deakin.edu.au. And you can also send us some feedback from this event or any other messages you'd like to send us through that. If we didn't get to your question, please send it through and we'll share it with our panelists. And I hope you all have a good night, and please stay safe, and we look forward to staying in touch as we move into 2021. Thank you all again. Good night.